There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men who boil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that would make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Large when I cremated Sam McGee. Now Sam McGee was from Tennessee where the cotton blooms and blows, while he left his home in the south to roam round the mole, God only knows. It was always cold, but the land of gold seemed to hold him in its spell, though he'd often say in his homely way that he'd sooner live in hell. On a Christmas day, we were mushing our way over the Dawson Trail. The pocket grew cold through the parka's fold, it stabbed like a driven nail. If our eyes we'd closed, then the lashes froze, till sometimes we couldn't see. It wasn't much fun, but the only one to whimper was Sam McGee. And that very night as we lay packed tight on the roads beneath the snow, with the dogs all fed and stars overhead dancing heel to toe, he turned to me, and Cap says he, I'll cash in this trip, I guess. And if I do, I ask that you won't refuse my last request. Now a friend's last need is a thing to heed, and I swore I would not fail. We started on at the streaky dawn, but oh, he was ghastly pale. He crouched on the sleigh and he raved all day of his home in Tennessee, and before nightfall, a corpse was all that was left of Sam McGee. There wasn't a breath in that land of death, but I hurried, horror-driven, with a corpse half-hid that I couldn't get rid because of a promise given. It was lashed to the sleigh, but it seemed to say, you may tax your brawn and brains, but you promised true, and it's up to you to cremate his last remains. Now a promise made is a debt unpaid, and the trail has its own stern code. In the days to come, though my lips were dumb, in my mind how I cursed that load. In the long, long night round the lone firelight, while the huskies round in a ring held out their woes through the homeless snows. Oh my, how I loathed that thing. And every day that quiet clay seemed to heavy and heavier grow, but on I made, when the dogs were spent and the grub was getting low. The trail was bad, but I felt half mad, and I swore I would not give in, and I'd often sing to the hateful thing, and it hearkened with a grin. Till I came to the marge of Lake Large, and there a derelict lay. It was jammed in the ice, but I saw in a trice it was called the Alice May. I looked at it, and I thought of it, and I looked at the frozen chunk. Then here, said I with a sudden cry, is my crematorium. A plank I tore from the cabin floor, and I lit the boiler fire. Some coal I found that was lying around, and I heaped the fuel higher. The flames just soared, and the furnace roared, such a blaze you've seldom seen. Then I burrowed a hole in the glowing coal, and I stuffed in Sam McGee. Then I made a hike where I didn't like to hear him sizzle so. The heavens scowled, and the huskies howled, and the wind began to blow. It was icy cold, and the hot sweat rolled down my cheek, and I don't know why. And the greasy smoke in an inky cloak went streaking down the sky. I do not know how long in the snow I wrestled with grisly fear, but the stars came out and danced about ere again I ventured near. I was sick with dread, but I bravely said, I'll just take a peek inside. I guess he's cooked, and it's time I looked, so the door I opened wide. And there sat Sam, cool and calm in the heart of the furnace roar. He wore a smile, you could see a mile. He said, please close the door. For it's fine in here, and I greatly fear you'll let in the cold and storm. Since I left the plum tree down in Tennessee, it's the first time I've been warm. There are strange things done in the midnight sun by men who toil for gold, and the Arctic trails have their secret tales that make your blood run cold. The northern lights have seen queer sights, but the queerest they ever did see was that night on the marge of Lake Large when I cremated Sam McGee.